Well, first of all, I just want to say hi and I want to say congratulations on your new book.
Oh my
Cancer is
God.
Complicated and Other Unexpected Lessons I've Learned. First of all, how are you? I mean, I know you've been busy. Obviously, this book's out, but how are you doing?
Oh my gosh, Hoda, I had a major surgery, which was is supposed to hopefully end my reconstruction nightmares. And then one day after that surgery, I had a major complication and had to get rushed back into surgery, back into the hospital. I had lost a ton of blood and needed a blood transfusion on top of it. I am just, I'm still in major recovery mode and it just feels
Wow.
never ending. It's so fun
Wow.
because now I get to write a second book. So
Okay. All
that's how
right.
I feel.
Okay, good, good. I like your optimism. Let's start because there are people who know you intimately, like me, and there are people who are like Clea Shearer. I think I know her. I think I know her. So let's just start with it.
Okay.
You are Clea Shearer. You're part of the home edit team. You and Joanna are like a team. We fell in love with you on the Today Show. And you start off in 2015 saying, my life is bumping. We've got this thing. Like, you guys kind of came out of nowhere and started this incredible show with Reese Witherspoon. And people were like, wow. You know how sometimes you're up here and you're like, life can't get better than
I
this.
do know.
Do you remember?
And then it knocks you off its axis. But yes, just a month ago was our 10-year anniversary starting the home edit. So much has obviously transpired in a decade. And for those of you who don't know, the home edit is rooted in home organization and is now a lifestyle brand. And, you know, we have TV shows and books and products all over the world. And life couldn't have gotten better. But then, of course, you know, the
So
universe is here to remind you otherwise.
how do you explain? Because your life is one way on Monday, and then on Tuesday, you get a phone call, you get news, you get something, and literally within hours, you went from feeling completely and totally healthy, alive, and vibrant to, uh-oh, like what's going on? Tell me about the moment that you learned that you had cancer and how your life changed in that with that moment.
Well, one of the most defining moments to me was actually when I found my own lump. And I was in the shower getting ready for the Today Show. And, you know, I had just turned 40 just a couple weeks prior. And so I was, you know, just in the shower, washing up, and I felt something that I think I had felt maybe months before, but it came into crystal clear view because I had just turned 40. And the second I felt it in my mind, I had a mammogram just kind of looming over me because I had just turned 40. And I realized that maybe what I had felt before and dismissed as just like, well, breasts are kind of lumpy, now was like a red alert alarm on my breast that was telling me this was not just lumpy, this was the lump they talk about. This was a lump. And I got out of the shower, immediately called my gynecologist and said, I need a mammogram. I think
You knew.
and I
Did
said
you
the
know?
words, I found a lump. And it was so scary coming out because those are the words you hope you never have to say. And I was denied a mammogram. I was
Why?
told at that point that the books were completely full. And this was in February of 22. And they said, you know, April's completely closed. May is not open yet. So just keep trying back. And at that point, I found a new gynecologist. Let me just say that. That was the end of that relationship. But I will never forget that moment of just, and that was February 22nd. I called my general practitioner and she immediately mobilized and got me into a mammogram and an ultrasound. And I was ultimately diagnosed March 8th of
Wow.
2022.
Do you remember our conversation that you and I had? Surely.
Like
What
it
do
was
you
yesterday.
remember? Tell me about that.
We were the home edit team and we were organizing your office for the Today Show along with Miss Jenna Bush. Well, she wasn't doing the organizing, but she had arranged the surprise. We had just shown you your office, and I pulled you aside and I just said, you know, Hoda, I haven't told anyone this, but I just need to let you know, like I feel so compelled to let you of all people know that I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And you were just like you were a human hug. Not just because I got a hug, but you just enveloped me and held my hand, and you imparted a lot of beautiful words and wisdom, but you said something that stuck with me forever, which was, I have a lot of friends who have had breast cancer too. I know a lot of people who have breast cancer, and the beautiful thing is we're all here. We're all here today to talk about it, and you are going to be too. And here we are talking about it. So you were right, as you always are.
Well, when you get diagnosed with something, and I was diagnosed many years ago, and I remember how it felt, Clea. So I remember all the scariness about it, because in your position too, you had children. So it wasn't, you and your husband only, it was you, your husband, and your children. I thought some of the scariest stuff when it comes to cancer is telling people who love us. How did you tell your kids?
Well, I waited. So my diagnosis was March 8th, and my surgery, my double mastectomy, was April 8th. And I waited until the day before my surgery to tell the kids, because I didn't want them to hold the burden of fear of what's to come and what does this mean? Is mommy going to be okay? I didn't want it to fester for too long. So the day before, I sat them down on the couch and I explained that I have breast cancer, but I have spoken with my doctors, and everyone feels so confident that I'm going to go into surgery tomorrow. They're going to remove the cancer, and I am going to get to the other side of this. My oncologist told me, along with your words of wisdom, he specifically said, Clea, I believe your cancer is not just treatable, but curable. And I held that very tightly to my heart. I so firmly believed, and of course believe, that I was able to confidently say to my kids, I'm not scared. I'm not afraid. And I said, and mommy's afraid of snakes. You know what I mean? Like, mommy's afraid of a lot of things. So I don't even like to fly. So I said, I am telling you this from the bottom of my heart, that I am not afraid.
How old were your kids at that point, Clea?
11 and 8.
Wow. How did they process it? Or did they, I guess seeing you not afraid, it probably gave them some comfort.
There were tears, but they were not hysterical. Like they, I think, cried from the shock and the confusion of it all. And of course, I just answered as many, any question they had. I answered truthfully and honestly. I did not sugarcoat anything. They had questions, and they wanted to know, for instance, are you going to be bald? Are you going to lose all your hair? And I don't think they meant it from a vanity perspective, of course. More like is it that type? Like, are you sick? Like, is it sick cancer, or is it the kind of cancer that, our dog at the time had cancer tumors removed? And they were like, is it just like Emmett had? And I was like, at the time I was like, kind of like Emmett. I don't know. But I said, at that moment, we didn't know if I would need chemo. Not until I got into my 9-hour surgery did they find more cancer and found that it had spread. So at that moment, I absolutely answered what I felt was honestly, which I said, I don't think so. I would have to revise that later.
Now, because the weird thing about being diagnosed with cancer, and anybody who's listening to this podcast probably either knows somebody or has themselves been through it. When you are sort of flying blind. And it's so crazy because so many women have come before us who've been through it, who learned all these lessons, but somehow you just go, oh, I'm done with it. And you just want to put it in a box under the bed and forget about it. But what you decided to do was take the things that you learned along the way, things you wish someone would have said, as you're looking for a doctor, or when a doctor says X, or when a doctor does this, or what you should bring with you when you know, go to the hospital, go to chemo, go to radiation. You put them all in your book. It's called Cancer is Complicated and Other Unexpected Lessons I've Learned. If you had a friend who was diagnosed with breast cancer today, and she said, give me 5 things, important things that you think that you didn't know that you wish you had that I can take with me, what would you offer up?
One of the most important things that I learned is that I would have more good days than bad days. And I was terrified of the opposite. I was worried I would be bedridden. I was worried I would be sick all the time. And you know, one of those lessons I learned is that, you know, don't believe the only thing you see on TV and movies. You know, chemo is an important drug. It's a critical drug. It'll save your life. And my good days far outnumbered my sick days.
I want to talk about that because that's important, because it's also a lot of what goes on in your head. Because even on your non-sick days, you can feel terrible about life. How did you like comb through that and realize like bad day, good day? How does one have a good day?
Sometimes you'll fall into bad days mentally. And that is something that, you know, that is like a personal kind of up and down struggle that we all go with. But I think that the way we physically feel obviously impacts the way we mentally feel. So for me, I was just terrified. I just thought that I'm not going to be able to talk to people, see people, interact with people. And as you know, I am quite an extrovert, and I fill my energy tank by being with people. So for me, I would get chemo on Thursdays. Fridays were iffy. Saturday I was sick. Sunday I started to rebound. And then, so I always had that beginning part of the week where I actually felt pretty good. And I realized, okay, if I think about my chemo sessions and I think that I'm going to be sickest on that Saturday after my Thursday, and the other days around it maybe aren't amazing, but they're fine. And then I have some days that are actually decent. I was like, okay, I can do that. I can actually, I can conquer that. And if I know that I have this many sessions and maybe I have this many sick days, I mean, I can get through that.
Get through that.
And that helped me feel a level of fortitude where I felt like I could conquer this, I could sustain it, I could deal with it. And that helped me mentally.
I like that. So more good days than bad days. Great. But first of all, great headline with almost anything anyone's going through.
Yes.
Whatever your cross to bear is, you lost a parent, you're going through an illness.
Yes.
At the end of the day, when you start looking at the days. Okay, so that's a great piece of advice. What else would you tell a friend who said, you know, I don't know, help me?
I would start at the beginning with the first lesson I learned, which was self-advocacy. Every single thing about your cancer journey relies on you speaking up and you talking to your doctor and talking to your loved ones and you being your own best advocate. Not that your doctors are not working absolutely the hardest they can for you. Not that they are, you know, not steering the ship here, but every single, like I had so many twists and turns where if I hadn't even been like, hey, this side effect is too much for me. This, you know, the steroids, I'm not able to sleep. Or, you know, all of these different things. What I learned was that your advocacy doesn't stop when you get diagnosed. It's not like all of a sudden now your care is just in someone else's hands. There are things that you will experience that your doctor needs to be informed of. They don't know every twist and turn of the way you physically feel. And every single time I spoke up and said, this doesn't feel like I can manage it. This feels out of my ability. Every single time there was a solution, there were things that we could do. Do not just suffer in silence. And
that's good.
You know, like if you're really nauseous, take the Zofran, you know, talk to your doctor. There are so many things that you can actually do. And there's so much innovation that has occurred since, you know, decades ago. Do not consider cancer to just be a sick sentence. There's so much that you can do to be resilient.
That's good, because often people do think of the doctor like they know best, and everyone says cancer's hard, so I just have to slog through this and be miserable and not sleep or sweat all the time or feel nauseous. Okay, but what's another one? What's a third one?
Okay, another that is in tandem,
Yeah.
accept help.
Yeah.
Accept help from your friends, from your family. Everyone wants to be there. You are not a burden. That to
That's
me
good.
is something that was hard for me personally because I am a very independent, empowered person, and I don't love to accept help. I'm the helper. Like I'm the person that goes and helps people. And for me specifically, that was hard. Maybe that's not hard for everyone, but I think that, when you're in this moment and everyone around you, part of what they need is to help you. Part of what your friends, your family, it's not just for you and for your benefit, it's for their benefit too. This is a combined cause.
Do you remember a moment? I mean, and there were many, and everyone's probably thinking of theirs, but when you were on your knees and finally you said, I need to ask for help, like I can't do this by myself. Was there an epiphany, kind of an aha that you remember?
It was in my very early days after my surgery, before I went to chemo, I realized that I was just incapacitated in a way that I had never been in my life. I'd never had surgery before. My double mastectomy was my first surgery ever. I never broke a bone. And what I realized is that I was recovering from a major surgery on my way to a major life turn, which would be chemo. I had a 6-week recovery period, and it was really, really it was a scary time. So it wasn't just like a physically, I need to get better time. It was a really, really scary time. And I was dealing with a lot of mental demons as well as I need to physically recover. And that was a moment where I really just had to literally sit in my medical recliner chair and let people come to me. It was not a situation where I was like, let's go to brunch. And what I really needed more than anything for me was I wanted to be around people. I craved that connection and friendship that I always had. And I accepted people to come by and bring me lunch.
What you said about mental demons is a big one that I don't think people spend enough time on, because you have the tasks at hand. Go to chemo, take care of this, do that, do this. But sometimes when you're sitting by yourself, and I've thought about this many times, you're like, did they get it all? Is it gone? Am I, what mental demons were you wrestling with, and how did you kind of come on the other side or face them?
Well, I will say that it is, it's a journey, like everyone says. It is not a one and done with your mental demons. It's like they come and go. I think it morphed and transcended as the journey went on. But I think a lot of my initial feelings were, number one is, am I ever going to feel better? Am I ever going to, I believe I will get better. Am I ever going to feel better? Am I ever going to be clear of this kind of shadow over me? And the truth is, I don't know if I ever will be clear of the shadow over me, because I will deal with this risk of recurrence for probably the rest of my life. But I feel stronger and more empowered and more in control. I believe in my ability to do the hard things. I believe in my ability to manifest all the good, all that I need in my life, and not that it's ever pushed aside ever. I mean, it can't be, but I do feel like I can talk to myself when I go down a bad path. I can be like, come on, and another thing, you learn that you just absolutely, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And why spend a day, why waste a day just being scared or just being worried that it doesn't really achieve anything. And it's natural, it happens, but
yeah, because we're humans. It's so funny. I interviewed a few weeks back Christina Applegate and Jamie Lynn Sigler. Christina, who of course wrote a beautiful. She wrote on the back of your book. By the way, you have great people on the back of your book.
You
have Christina Applegate.
Of course.
Well, you've got Jenna Fisher, Maria Shriver, Olivia Munn, all great people. But something struck me when Christina and Jamie Lynn were talking. And Christina, is early on in her journey, and Jamie Lynn Sigler, of course, has been dealing with MS for a long time. And Jamie Lynn Sigler said something, and it struck me. She said, sometimes I meditate, and I was like, okay. And she said, and her son asked her, what do you think about when you meditate? Because she says she tries anything that you were talking about, getting your mind right. And she said, well, I'm really not supposed to think about anything. Meditation is supposed to be clearing your mind, but I actually do think about something. And he said, Mommy, what do you think about? And she said, in my meditation, I'm running with you guys on the beach.
Oh.
And that's something that she can't do.
Yeah.
And he said, does that make you happy or sad? And she said, it makes me happy. And he said, why? And she said, because when I'm there, I feel the feelings of running. I feel the euphoria of being with you. And so it struck me as a way to take your mind, because so much of our life is here. It's right here. It's like, and that's why I admire you so much, because you from the beginning, and I'm not, look, you have your darkest days, and you're not rose-colored glasses, you're not pretend, you're real. But yet in there, when I speak to you, I feel the sense of hope always. Is there something, do you have practices, things you do that help you get your mind right when it kind of strays down a path?
I mean, sometimes you have to give in to some rough feelings, like there are times it would be impossible. It would also be untrue and not genuine to not allow yourself to sometimes just feel it. I can count on one hand how many times I have absolutely broken down and sobbed in my cancer journey. It's been 3.5 years. And one of those times was 3 weeks ago when I had to get rushed back to the hospital the day after my surgery. It just was too much. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's just too much, and that is okay. I have learned that there is no shame in that. There is value in it, in fact, of just sometimes releasing that emotion and being like, you know what? I work really hard every day to do my best, to feel my best, to be my best. And there are moments where sometimes the demons get the best of you, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think that one of the reasons why I share things so publicly is because I want people to understand that I work really hard to be positive and to focus on all the good that I can do, the good that I can feel, the mom I can be, the business partner, the wife, all of those things. But then sometimes I also just have had it on a given moment, given day, and that is absolutely fine too.
Can I just say, anybody who's been through the number of surgeries you've been through, like I had 3, and I thought, I'm tapped out. I remember
13.
13.
Yeah, 13.
Now, are the 13 surgeries the result of something went wrong, this didn't work? Like what's been happening here, and why are we at 13 surgeries?
Well, there are a few things, and it literally started the week after my double mastectomy. I had to go in for emergency surgery for necrosis. And that was like, okay. And it was such a big deal that it was 7 days after my double mastectomy. It was on Easter Sunday. And the doctors were like, we need to operate immediately. So that was like my first taste of, okay, this might not be a linear path. This is going to have some turns, and, you just have to adjust. And I was so in the throes of it the first time that I don't even think I really was like, whoa, a second surgery right away. It was just kind of like, a Jesus take the wheel situation, and, it just got rushed in. And through that period, through chemo and radiation, when I finally got to reconstruction, I had a lot of complications. And part of my issue was radiation. My radiated skin made things extremely complicated. I had 1.5 inches thick of scar tissue around my entire casing. I've had infections. I've had incisions that have opened. Unfortunately, been dealt kind of a bit of a rough hand with the way my body has responded to a lot of things. Just like in this last surgery, having to go back in a day later, and my body's just rejected a lot. And I've also had, for instance, I've had an oophorectomy to get my ovaries and fallopian tubes out to reduce my risk, because I'm hormone positive. My breast cancer is hormone positive. So there's just been so much.
Are you a why me person? Are you like, what the hell's happening here?
I was why me for 1 week, I would say, like maybe a little less, but I would say 5 to 7 days. I was definitely a why me person, and I was beside myself. And we were in Paris right after my diagnosis. My mom says, "You're still going?" I was like, "Well, what else am I supposed to do?" It's like just waiting for my doctor. I didn't even have doctors yet assigned. So I was like, yes, I'm still going. And it was a pretty depressing trip for half the week. And then something just flipped inside of me where I realized this is not a why me. It's like a why not me? Like, of course, some people get breast cancer. 1 in 8 women get breast cancer. People get diagnosed every day, all day long. Why wouldn't well, I'm not exempt, number one. And number two, if someone has to get breast cancer, why shouldn't it be me? I have all the resources, all the capabilities. I have excellent medical care that is in my hometown. I live in Nashville. Vanderbilt is a world-class renowned hospital. I have the most incredible team at the Home Edit and Hello Sunshine. I have the most supportive husband. I have the most supportive parents. My kids are, it's like everything is lined up to take care of me. I will be okay, and maybe I can take the place of someone who might otherwise not. So for me, the why me went away really quickly, and then I felt empowered. Then I felt like, why not me? And then, yes, definitely me. And I am going to make my cancer purposeful. I have a platform. I was like, this of all people, it should be me.
Do you feel like people only want to have one conversation with you? And I remembered thinking to myself, I can't talk about this anymore. It's like, I remember going like, please, let's talk about something else. Or the way people looked at me, I hated the looks. I didn't want to feel like they were looking at me that way, like with pity or sorrow. I didn't like that it was the thing that I felt like was defining me, even though I had lived so many years that wasn't even part of me. How do you deal with that? Or have you decided, like, for now, this is me and let's see?
I think that this has become a really crucial part of my identity, but not because I had cancer. Like, I don't feel like a cancer patient is part of necessarily my identity. I think that trying to be a purposeful figure within this horrible disease and trying to help people has become part of my identity. And I'm great with that. Okay. I don't want to just be known as a cancer patient. I don't want to be known as someone who just is like always fighting through cancer. But I do want to be known as someone who tries to aid and help people through my own experience. And I feel like that to me is really purposeful.
I was and am kind of type A in control. Like, I needed to be in control. I was like, I need to be in control of everything. And when I got my diagnosis, I remembered spinning because I was cleaning my house, which I was doing weird things to control corners of my life because I was spinning out. I'm looking at your background. You're a control person. So how did you handle this kind of out of control monster that no matter what you did, you couldn't control it? It was going to take you where it was going to take you.
Well, I had a mantra, and I still do, which is control the controllables and know when you can't control things. And that was with me pretty early on, where I just realized, okay, 9 out of these 10 things I can't do anything about. But I'm going to take this little sliver that I can. For instance, I shaved my own head. I was like, I don't want to lose my hair. I don't want to deal with the anguish of it falling out in the shower and on the pillowcase. I'm going to shave my own head. There are certain things that I felt I can actually control this a little bit. And even if I can't control the whole thing, I can do what I can. And that gave me a little bit of that, the step that I needed, to feel like, okay, like I can do this little piece. I can control the way I eat. I can make sure one of the lessons that I learned was I can control 30 minutes of intentional movement every day. I can, take a 30-minute dedicated walk. I can, there are just certain things that I can do. I don't have to just sit back and let it all happen to me.
Cancer changes everything. And I mean, again, just thinking back for me, it was like it gave me things, which always sounds weird if you are someone who hasn't been around it or had it. It's like, ew, cancer was a gift. How? For me, it gave me courage. It made me realize, ask for things you want. Time isn't always on your side. But I think it changes everything. How did cancer change you as a wife, a parent, a friend, a worker? Like, it's a tectonic plate shift, but how did it alter you?
Oh my gosh, it changed so much. And I agree with you. I think it's insane, but I feel like I'm a better person. Like it actually changed me for the better. Not that anyone should ever want cancer. We can find other ways to make ourselves better. But for me, I learned so much about myself. I truly thought I was like a very delicate flower in the snow all the time. I did not know that I had so much strength and so much resilience. And now I tap into it like a superpower. I didn't know I had it. I knew what I knew. I knew that I was a really good organizer, that I had talent and skill in a lot of different ways, and that I was a strong, independent person. I didn't know that I could rise to another occasion. I've never really been someone who had to deal with, like I said, I've never even broken a bone. I haven't had to deal with a lot of like pain, physical pain. I'm in a wonderful marriage. I have beautiful children. I just hadn't had to really tap into what I needed to do to make it through the day. I didn't know that I had that inside of me. And that not only could I tap into something deeper for my own healing, for my own self, but that I could tap into it to be strong for other people too. It was surprising, and surprising in a way that I like learned an entire new part of my identity. I learned a whole new facet of myself that after 40 years, I didn't know was in me. And I use that every day now. I think about all the things that truly don't really matter anymore. I prioritize things differently. I am a different type of parent. I look at the world differently. I look at my day differently.
How has parenting changed? How are you different there?
Stella just started high school this year.
Wow.
And Sutton just started middle school. So all of a sudden, I'm now thrust into a whole new world of emotion and pain. But but it's made me help. Like in high school, for instance, as we all know, we all remember, everything is at such a heightened sense of urgency and embarrassment and mortification and just everything. And it's really helped me dial back and be like, you know what? We're going to do the best we can here. We're going to get through this. And it is not the thing, it is not the big deal we think it is. And, that could go from a grade on a test to, something on the cheer team. Whatever it is, things are not insurmountable, because let me tell you about something that could have been insurmountable and it wasn't. So, I think that my household has a different perspective. And, they've watched me weather really big storms, and it's so funny. I mean, now my kids are experts. Like the other day when I had to go back to the hospital without knowing that I was going to have to go back in, my son says, "But you ate already today," because he knows surgery protocol.
Oh
Like
my
he knows that
gosh.
you actually had to fast before surgery. So how's this going to work? And he's 11. So they've seen really hard things happen, and my kids are better for it. I'm better for it. And yeah, it's a group effort.
The thing I love about this book too is it's got a lot of kind of practical things that I think people don't let you know. For instance, when you go to radiation or when you go to chemo, like what are some things that people can take there? If you've never done it, it's the big scary monster. What's something you can do to help yourself?
Well, that's another controllable. You can make sure that you are set up for success going into chemo. And this was actually something that I took great joy in. This is not going to be a shock to anyone who knows me, but I packed a bag, and and I took a lot of time thinking about what I would want in a room that made me scared. And some of it was really practical things. Like I wanted like warm fuzzy socks. I wanted my own blanket. I didn't want to have the prison blankets that you get at, doctor's offices. And that was actually kind of like Jamie Lynn in a very different way. I would just spend time during my surgery recovery, like really trying to be proactive about thinking of all the little things that I might want. And so I collected kind of the usual stuff, and then also like the unusual stuff, like little objects that made me feel good. In fact, this right behind me is my little gold Buddha that one of my best friends gave me, and that went in my bag. It wasn't just snacks and water bottles. It was things that I could hold, that I could feel, and that the love kind of poured through. So I would tell people, think about the immediates. Think about, again, a nice warm fuzzy blanket, warm fuzzy socks. Chemo rooms are often cold. Think about headphones, Kindle, your charger, all kind of the practical things. And then allow yourself maybe a couple extra things that just fill you a little bit more. It might be a childhood stuffed animal. It might be a gold Buddha. My mother gave me a beautiful little stamped 4-leaf clover that I brought with me. And of course I brought my mother too. So I brought the clover, but I also brought my mother, and she sat with me every single session.
That's so important, by the way. Having another human, whether they're there to hear what doctors are saying or whether they're sitting there to hold your hand. I mean, that was probably a game changer for you.
It was the most wonderful thing. Every single session, every single treatment, every single appointment, I had John and my mother with me. And I absolutely recognize that is not necessarily usual. People have to work, people's schedules get in the way. This is, not everyone has the luxury of having their mother and husband with them. So I fully recognize how lucky I am. But it was oddly like some treasured moments. And it was real quiet time. It was a real moment, I think, for all three of us, and we recognized it every single time, and not all of it was bad. Sometimes it was just lovely to be together.
Were you mad at people who didn't show up like you thought they should have?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can admit that, again, not every part of anyone's journey through this is like heroic by any means. You're not like, I have everything lined. I am positive Polly. I am, I feel like I get it all. No, sometimes you're mad. Sometimes people, they drop off. Sometimes people don't show up the way you want. Sometimes people might never have checked in the first place. And maybe you'll never speak to them ever again. There are those moments. And I think that is absolutely human of us. I think that is fine. Where I had to start making mental boundaries is there are reasonable expectations to put on people. There are reasonable things where you can expect your friends, your loved ones to check in at least semi-frequently. There are people in your life who you expect to check in more. There are people who you're like, oh, wow, I can't believe they checked in at all. There are both of those, sides of the coin. And then the unreasonable expectations. I had to check myself a few times of like, now wait a minute. I didn't tell this person what I need from them. I cannot expect people to be a mind reader. I cannot expect people to know that maybe today I need company. I can't put that unreasonably on someone. I need to speak up. Again, be your own advocate, be your own voice, and accept the help. Tell people you need them to sit with you or drive you to a chemo appointment. Tell people that sometimes do you want to just have lunch and watch something on TV? Just ask. Put that out there. And if someone disappoints you, then that's on them. If you didn't ask and you feel disappointed by someone for not just automatically showing up and doing it, I think that's a
by the way, that's a great life lesson to do that. And I also do think when you are sick or when you go through any crisis, if you're listening, going through anything, there are people who show up and you ask and they show up, and there are people who don't and you are shocked that they didn't bother. And then maybe the guilt was too heavy, so they never did. And then maybe that was how that relationship was meant to sort of die on the vine, and that's life. But I do think the weird thing is your life does snap into focus. You're like, there's a beginning and an end. Mm-hmm. Only a certain number of people are going to be in my boat for this ride. Everyone doesn't get to climb in. Right. There's not room for everybody. So now I know who my group is, who my people are, and I'm going to sail on and picture how this goes. I love this book. I think for anybody who's going through it, you obviously, it has your personal journey, and then at the end of each chapter, it gives you something that's practical. And I think we long for practicality in this world of emotion, and we long for something that we can do and a list we can check off, and that's what this book has. So our podcast is called Making Space because we like to make space for things in our life. So if you have a day that is just for you and nobody else is going to come in your day, you can do it, or you can invite people in. But from the minute you open your eyes to the minute you close them at night, they're like, Clea, you do you, whatever you want. How would you spend that day?
I would walk the length of Manhattan, because when I went to college in New York City, one of my absolute favorite things to do, one of my favorite pastimes with one of my best friends, the one who gave me my gold Buddha, Merritt, we would spend the day, we would start uptown, maybe Upper West Side, and walk all the way downtown. And we would stop along the way. We would get lunch, or we would get iced coffee, or we would stop into a shop. And that was how we spent our days, our weekends. And not only was it, I think in my mind, one of the best times of my entire life. And, I was in my 20s living in New York City, but New York fills me with so much. New York is the first thing in my life that I think changed my identity and changed me for the better. It's still my happy place. And it also reminds me of what my body could do. And I think that I still crave the connection of being able to just go without the physical limitations. So if I could just have a day to myself, which Joanna and I love to do. We do this often. We don't really necessarily get to start like up in the 80s and work our way, down to the Lower East Side, but we just love to walk in New York. Who doesn't on a beautiful day?
Well, I love everything you're talking about. The lessons are all in here. It's called Cancer is Complicated and Other Unexpected Lessons I've Learned by Clea Shearer. New York Times bestselling author, and I love that you're on Maria Shriver's imprint because nobody's better than her. I love you. Good luck. Thank you for spreading all this goodness because, that's what you do, girl.
Well, we try. We get up and try, and some days it works and some days it doesn't. But
well, I think it's working. All right, you have a good one. Thank you.
Love you, Hoda.
Love you too.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.